And if you're using Windows, this should say WSL or Ubuntu or something like that. And if you have all that, that means we're ready to go. Now, a quick note, something that you'll see me do a lot, and you can do this as well. Oftentimes, when my terminal gets really, really big, or there's a ton of commands in here, it gets a little bit overwhelming for me. So one thing that you can do is you can type clear and hit enter to clear it. Or what you can do is you can hit Command K if you're on a Mac, or Control K if you're on a Linux or a Windows. And it's one of my favorite keyboard shortcuts that I use all the time. Additionally, the trash can and the X here are very different. If I go do a couple of enters here and we're down here, if I hit the X here and then pull my terminal back up by doing the toggle or by doing terminal, new terminal, you'll see all those lines are still here. But if I hit the trash can and then pull the terminal back up, you'll see it actually refreshes. Mine has a special command that prints stuff out. Trashing your terminal is basically deleting whatever's running in it, and the X is just hiding it. And it's hitting Control tilde or toggling our terminal or whatever command it is on your environment. That's equivalent to hitting the hide, not the trash. So if we want to remove and start a terminal over, we hit the trash can and then we pull it back up. So after we have that set up, the next thing that we're going to want to install is actually Foundry itself. In the Foundry book, you can find this in the installation tab, or you can go to getfoundry.sh and it'll have this command that you can actually just go ahead and copy. Windows users, we're going to teach you how to do it the Linux or Mac OS way, so just stay tuned. So we're going to go ahead and copy this and run this command. Again, we can go terminal, new terminal, and there are also some shortcuts to do this. I'm just going to go ahead and paste this in here and hit enter. You will need internet access for this to work because it's actually downloading Foundry from this website. And let me just move this up, zoom in a little bit here. And you'll see me do this a lot. In the terminal, I'll type clear a lot to remove anything that's been coded or output in our terminal here. Or you'll also see me do Command K like that, which clears the screen. When I'm typing in the terminal, you'll see me hit Control W a lot, which actually removes the most recent block of code you've written. You'll also see me do Control U, which deletes the entire line. So I'm going to use Command C for copy and Command V for paste a lot. For those of you on Windows and Linux, it might be Control C and Control V. And if you're unfamiliar, you can Google the keyboard shortcuts for copying and pasting for Windows or Linux. If you're on a Windows, these keyboard shortcuts might be a little bit different. We've got a list of keyboard shortcuts in the Git repo associated with this course. But if you've just run that curl command, you'll see an output at the bottom down here that says something like detected your preferred shell is whatever your shell is here and added Foundry up to path. Run source or simply start a new terminal session to use Foundry up. And once you run that, we can go ahead and run Foundry up, and this will actually install and update Foundry to the latest version. Now, whenever we want to install and update Foundry, we can just run Foundry up like this. It'll automatically install everything. And Foundry comes with 4 components: Forge, Cast, Anvil, and Chisel. We'll know we've installed these right if we run forge -- version, and we'll see an output that looks something like this. Now, something important to note, if you hit this trash can in the top right, this actually kills the terminal. It's different from the X, which is just close the panel. If we close the panel and then we reopen our terminal by hitting terminal, new terminal, like this actually creates a new terminal, which we can kill like this, but our old terminal is still up. In order to actually delete this terminal, we have to hit the trash can. Now you want to try this out now. Delete your terminal like we just did, open up a new terminal and run Foundry up. If this doesn't run, we might have an issue with your path and you might need to add Foundry to your path. If this is an issue that you have, please make a discussion on the GitHub repo associated with this course, or please first check this lesson 6 of the GitHub repo associated with this course, and we'll add some debugging tips to make sure that that does indeed happen. Or if there is no debugging tips here, make a discussion on the course. But first, be sure to check to see if that discussion already exists. And you should be able to do forge -- version. However, what can happen is if you trash can the terminal and open up a new terminal, if you run forge -- version now, it might say forge command not found. This means that you have to rerun this command, this source command that Foundry told us to do. If you're working with bash, most of the time, this bash RC file automatically gets loaded, but sometimes it actually won't depending on what your setup is. If this happens for you, another thing that you can do is you can type cd and go to your home directory and type this line, echo source, and then whatever Foundry up told you to do, $.bash profile, and hit enter. For example, when we just ran Foundry up right here, it gave us this command here, the source users patrick.bashrc. That's what we would want to echo. However, this will change depending on your terminal setup. So look to the GitHub repository for the command that you should be using for your setup. Please make a discussions thread if one does not already exist. What this will do is it'll add this command to the end of your bash profile. Make sure you do double like this, otherwise you could override whatever's currently in your bash profile. Now I'm going to give you a command that if you screw up, you could accidentally override some stuff. If you've never used bash profile before, you kind of don't have to worry about it though. The other command you can run is something like this. If you do get an issue, we can just ask an AI something like, how do I get my bash RC to load by default? And there's a couple of different ways for this depending on what system you're using and what you're working with. All I'm going to say though is, if this happens to you, if you run forge -- version, and instead of getting an output, you get something like command not found, ask an AI or come into the discussions of the channel. And as people run into this, we'll build and start a discussion. And if enough people have issues, we'll create a new file here to help people debug that issue. So, but it looks like ChatGPT does give a pretty good output of what we can do. We can edit our bash RC, our bash profile, etc., and work with it like that. So if you run into that issue, there's plenty of things we can do to fix it. Don't worry. But if you're a little nervous, feel free to use the discussions channel of the course. Got it? Okay, great. If you see an output like this, you've done it right. If you see an output like, we don't know what you're doing, you've done it wrong. All right, great. And again, installing these can be some of the hardest parts of this course. So don't get discouraged if this doesn't work right away. If it worked right away for you, that's actually amazing.